All right, so Manchester United have won against FC Barcelona 4-3 globally. Manchester United in the second half, they were able to beat Barcelona 2-1 with a goal coming from Fred and a goal coming from Anthony. The only goal scorer for FC Barcelona, it was Lewandowski. Now, I do think that even though I'm going to be saying that this was a very even match, the stats do say otherwise in a way, because if you look at the amount of shots that Manchester United had compared to FC Barcelona, you can see that Man U had more than double. United had a total of 12 shots while Barcelona had 6 shots. Man U also had 5 shots on target and Barcelona only had 3. Manchester United have also created 7 chances and Barcelona only had a total of 4. So like I've said, like it did seem like if you were to look at the game, it was a very even match, but on the stats, right, the numbers, United were more superior than FC Barcelona. And I don't have hate against this Manchester United side because I love what Ten Hag has been building with his great attacking qualities that he does have on the pitch, the way that this team does defend, the way that this team can break down a very deep block. And especially with FC Barcelona, there were some moments where Barcelona were trying to defend on a deep block, but Man U were able to, in a way, spread out those players, or if they did not spread out, Man United were able to find that lone player on the right side, which sometimes was Hernandez or sometimes Sancho or Weghorst. Any of those players, right? Ten Hag was able to just really go through Barcelona's defense, and especially the way that United have also scored. You saw how Fred and Anthony, they scored through the middle, right? They have scored through the middle, and Barcelona couldn't do anything about that. So I don't want to come off as like a very butthurt Barcelona fan, because I know that this is very annoying, but let's give respect towards what this United team have done against Barcelona, because we know how well they have been doing, and also how well Barcelona have been doing, and the fact that United have been able to respond against Barcelona at Old Trafford, you just have to, again, like I have continued to say, give respect. But as for FC Barcelona and talking about their game, I would say that in the first half we played very well. We were superior to United, but in the second half everything just fell apart, and I have no idea what it is. I hope that this is not some sort of mentality issue, or like if there's something going on in the locker room, but every time we go into the second half, because this is not the first time we have seen this, but every time we go into the second half, we end up playing at a lower level, and sometimes it does hurt FC Barcelona. We have seen this happen in La Liga, but we don't play United every weekend, right? But so you can see that Barcelona sometimes get away with it. But in this game, in a knockout round against United at Old Trafford, knowing that there is a next game to play, if you were to beat the opposition, United were able to respond in the second half after seeing that Barcelona were just not the same in the second half, and they had to pay the price for that. I would like to say that Barcelona should have done better, but like what more can you expect from a team that started a midfielder on the left wing? Seeing Sergi Roberto as a left winger just did not work out. Like, what more can you expect with, let's say, for example, having a midfield three of Frenkie de Jong, Busquets, and Kessie, right, in the midfield? Like what more can you expect from a midfield like that when you have Sergio Busquets just being outpaced by all of the players of Man United? There were so many times, and this is, again, the brilliance coming from Ten Hag, where Ten Hag has put Busquets in a position where he had to defend against either Rashford or Sancho or Fred or Hernandez or Garancho when he was inside the game, and Busquets could not keep up. He was isolated, right? He had to drop back, and sometimes Busquets had to foul those players, and many did say that this was a tactical foul. Like, yes, it's true, it was a tactical foul. Yes, it was smart from Busquets, but why even be in that situation in the first place? Why have Sergio Busquets just being ran through so easily to the point where he has to foul the player, and at the end of the day, it ends up being just Manchester United's ball, right? It ends up being in their possession. That is something that cannot be allowed at FC Barcelona. You want to have a central defensive midfielder that is able to keep up with the pace of these players and make those tackles and win the ball back and go on the attack. But with Busquets, we were unable to go for opportunities like that. So like I've said, what more can you expect with a starting 11 like this? We really did miss our players. Players like Pedri, Xavi, Dembele were greatly missed. Rafinha, I had no idea what he was doing, right? I don't know if this is a mental problem, physical problem. Is Rafinha going through the exact same thing of Ferran Torres? Because Ferran Torres yesterday did say that he was going through mental problems. He's seeing a psychologist or something like that. But with Rafinha, you have one good game, an amazing game, and in the next game you just don't perform at all. It's either you play well for the whole season or you don't. That is something that you have to have at Barcelona, is to be consistent. You can't just say, okay, I'm gonna score 1 goal here, I'm gonna provide 2 assists in the same game, and then in the next game you just can't do nothing. You don't even look like you even want to play. I was looking at the amount of touches that Rafinha had in this match, and it was a total of 45 touches. Can you believe that? More than any other winger from Manchester United, and those wingers from Manchester United did way more than Rafinha. And Rafinha, you can see by the amount amount of touches he does have, he had his chances, but little was done. It really isn't. Like, if you were to compare that to another winger from Manchester United, you can see that those wingers had much more involvement in the game. He also did take a total of 2 shots, and 0 of them were on target. Another player that I also want to talk about, it is Lewandowski. Lewandowski also had a very bad game. I have no idea what is going on with Lewandowski. I know that it's not a mentality problem because this is a veteran. This is a player that has been through everything in Champions League football, in league football. So I'm not gonna even think about Lewandowski going through some mentality problem because that's just not who he is. But I feel like, I don't know, like, do you feel like you want to represent Bayern more than FC Barcelona? Why did you seem way more enthusiastic and way more energetic when you played at Bayern, but not at FC Barcelona? It's just a much different type of energy. Like, I know he's probably going through some slump, but the slump has been too long, and it has hurt it. It has hurt FC Barcelona. We look at his shots and his shots on target. He had a total of 1 shot. He took a total of 1 shot, but that was the only shot that was on target, and that's basically it. He only took 1 shot in this game. Are you kidding me? Like, we're talking about a world-class striker had 1 shot in this game against Manchester United. And another thing that really does annoy me about the role that Lewandowski is playing in right now is the fact that he plays so deep. Like, if you look at the average position of all of these players, you can see that Lewandowski is almost acting like a central midfielder, and that's not who he is. This is a player who's, first of all, 35 years old, 36 years old, and he should be playing inside the box, not a player that should be dropping deep, acting like if he's Lionel Messi. It just doesn't make any sense. That's not the role that Lewandowski should be playing. He should be much higher. The service that he should be receiving should be coming from Rafinha, who takes the ball all the way up to the pitch, or maybe even Alejandro Balde, and Lewandowski should be the one up top, not the one that should be receiving the ball next to Sergio Busquets and then laying off passes to Frankie de Jong and Rafinha and all of these other players. It doesn't make no sense. Maybe this could be the reason on why he has only had 1 shot on target, and that's it. And then Sergio Roberto, right? Like, of course you're going to be seeing Sergio Roberto have a performance like this. Like I don't understand. Like, why play him on the left wing when you had Ansu, when you had Ferran Torres? You could have played those 2 players in Sergio Roberto's position. I understand that you probably Xavi wanted to see a 4-man midfield forming the box, but it wasn't going to work out with players like Sergi, Frankie, Kessie, and Busquets, right? They're just not as dominant. Players like Kessie and Frankie, they can do that, right? I'm very confident with Kessie and Frankie performing on a 4-man midfield and creating that box, but players like Sergio Roberto and Sergio Busquets, it's just totally different. I don't understand why Xavi cannot see that. The players that should have been there, and you guys know who should have been there, should have been Xavi and Pedri. Now, I know that Pedri is injured. Xavi has also been suspended, which was kind of his fault, but still, like, it's just very unfortunate because if you know the material that you have is not gonna be able to be what you want, right? Like, and I'm speaking about like Xavi's decision. If you know that you have Sergi and you have Frankie and Kessie and Busquets, you don't form that 4-man midfield in the midfield. Like, I don't understand what doesn't make any sense. What should have happened was basically have a midfield of Frankie, Kessie, and Busquets, and our front 3 being Ferran Torres, Lewandowski, and Ansu Fati. Ansu Fati should have been on the left because this is a player that needs to see minutes. This is a player that can also score goals, and you need to put him in positions like this. Like this, the Europa League is a great situation to begin to start performing at your very best. So Ansu Fati should have been on the left, and that's Sergio Roberto, and then having Lewandowski as a striker, and then having Ferran Torres, who has been having a great rhythm as of late, and he should have been starting over Rafinha. It should have happened like that. As a matter of fact, if we look at the last like 10 minutes, you can see that if you were to compare the average position and you look at the shape of Barcelona before they had Ferran Torres and Ansu Fati, the shape looked bad. Like, we had no width, everything looked so crammed in the midfield. And then if you look at the other average position when Ferran Torres and Ansu Fati were there, you can see it looked much more balanced, way more balanced. Now, there were some things that also did annoy me. Like, I know I'm kind of like bragging a bit, but some things did annoy me, like when it came to Ansu Fati or Ferran Torres receiving the ball. Like, 1 out of every 3 to 4 times they receive the ball, they fall down and they like slip for some reason. I don't know if you guys caught that, but there were moments where Ferran Torres was about to receive the ball and he slips, or Ansu Fati receives the ball and then he slips and then he loses the ball. And I'm like, okay, this is just them being out of form and because they're not in the same rhythm of this game. But this is something that should have happened in the beginning. We probably would have never seen this. We would have never seen Ansu Fati or Ferran Torres receive the ball and then slip multiple times in the last 20 minutes. It should have been a front 3 of Lewandowski, Ferran, and Ansu and have them grow into the game. So do I believe that Xavi should be out? To because I know that everybody's going to come out with that type of agenda. Everyone's going to be furious, and especially with the Barcelona fan base itself and some other fans maybe from Manchester United who want to troll and stuff like that. You know, they can say whatever they want, but you know, do I believe that Xavi should be out? No, I don't think so. The only time I would say that Xavi should be out is if he has his best 11 with his best material. You see Pedri, you see Xavi, Frankie, Ansu, Ferran, or Rafinha, or Dembele, or Lewandowski, having all of those players in, and if we see Xavi Hernandez have a horrible run of games and not being able to extend who these players are, then I would say, okay, maybe Xavi is not the coach. We're losing matches, we're not playing well, we have great players and we know that, then yes, Xavi should be out. But if you're having an injury crisis, and at the same time, we're still able to match Manchester United at Old Trafford and give them a good game, and even though we lost, I'm not going to be saying Xavi out. It just doesn't make any sense. Xavi Hernandez is the coach for FC Barcelona. And again, for the people out there, you're probably going to talk to a lot of people who do not have context on what happened to FC Barcelona. They're going to be saying Xavi out. He's just someone who doesn't have any experience. He has horrible European experience. He has only won 1 out of the 11 games that he has played in Europe. Xavi should be out and blah, blah, blah. It's all bogus. It's all lies. No context. Xavi is the one. We have seen so many players improve their game. We have seen Barcelona come out. Barcelona looks so much different compared to what we saw about a year ago. It only makes sense for us to continue from here. This should only be a learning step, not a step backwards. So that will be wrapping up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.